Welcome to the Exit Rich podcast, where the leading authority on buying, selling, fixing, and growing companies, Michelle Seiler Tucker, is dedicated to helping you find the path to retire rich and move on to your next adventure by exiting your business for the desired dream price you deserve. Get ready to exit rich with your host, Michelle Seiler Tucker.
Welcome to another episode of Exit Rich. I'd like to welcome our very special guest, a very good friend of mine, Kevin Marshall. Kevin Marshall is a CPA. Now, we've had CPAs on Exit Rich before, but
I'm sorry.
Kevin's not just any CPA. Kevin is, we call him Mr. Sexy CPA because Kevin is the author of Tax Credits Are Sexy. Wow. Anything related to taxes to be sexy is shocking to me. But anyway, so we call Kevin Mr. Sexy. Tax credits are sexy is what every organization really needs to know about employee retention credit, how to get savings out of their business, how to minimize taxes, and much more. So Kevin has been practicing as a CPA for 35 years. Oh, God bless you. Mm-hmm. He serves clients across the country via his virtual CPA firm. Now listen to that, virtual CPA firm. I love it. And he specializes in difficult specialty turning around businesses, especially in the financial situation. So he deals with companies that are having horrible financial issues. And how many businesses do you know, or how many of you are listening to this program today that you're having trouble with your finances? You're having lack of profits. Well, Kevin's your man. Mr. Sexy is your guy. So Kevin's awards, he's got so many awards, too many to name. But Kevin's awards include Money Magazine, People to Watch, and Harvard Business Journal's 40 Under 40. Kevin, you're over 40, aren't you?
I am now.
So anyways, Kevin, welcome to the program. So delighted to finally get you on the show. Yeah. And so delighted to talk about what everybody wants to know. How do I minimize taxes? How do I use tax credits? Most business owners don't even know what tax credits are. Most CPAs have never heard of them. They've never utilized them either. So you're going to be a great asset. So before we get started, tell us a little bit about what was Kevin like as a little boy? What got you involved and why did you want to become a CPA in the first place and why tax credits?
Great questions, Michelle, and thank you. So thank you. Yeah, it's been a long time coming for me to be on your show. So I appreciate the opportunity to finally get here. But so great question. Wow. Take me back to years ago, right? It was when I was a little boy. So actually my dad was an accountant. He was a cost accountant, which is very, very, very niche-y. It's a very small niche within the accounting world. But he was an accountant. So my brother also has an accounting degree. He does landscaping, but so we have all accountants in our family. My wife's side of the family are all engineers. So we actually have a rocket scientist in the family. My sister-in-law actually worked for NASA.
Wow.
And wants to work for SpaceX. So, so our kids are cursed, right? We've got the accountants on my side and all the engineers on my wife's side. So the poor kids with that kind of...
No pressure there, right? No pressure for the kids. Right? Wow, what a dynamic family.
Yeah. So I distinctly remember the day I decided to go into accounting. I asked my principal of my high school, I said, I can't decide. I either want to go into business get a business degree, or I want to get an accounting degree, and I'm not sure which way to go. And he gave me some great advice. He said, well, if you get an accounting degree and you go into accounting and you find you don't like accounting, you can always switch to business. But if you get a business degree and you go into business and you can't go the other direction. So that is literally that was the deciding factor for me to get into accounting. So it's been great.
Wow, that was really good advice.
So I thought it was great advice, right? I mean, Michelle, the businesses that you see that are for sale, I'm sure, right? The business owners most business owners don't know anything about accounting whatsoever. And it shows when you take a look at their books, right? Or you ask them questions, right? And they go, what was your revenue last year? I don't know. What's your break even point? I don't know, right? They don't know. So it's so helpful to have that accounting degree background. I don't do accounting anymore. I'm the CEO of the founder and the CEO of my company. And we have about 70 employees around the globe, actually. But so that was literally the
But
reason.
you're still involved in accounting.
Oh yeah, oh definitely. But I don't do any accounting work, for
You're working on the business, not in it.
not in it, right? So
Right.
yeah, the famous saying. So yeah, so I've enjoyed it. Spent years in public accounting, worked as CFO, for multiple companies. I've owned a few accounting businesses. We actually, I don't think you even know this, Michelle. We owned a bed and breakfast for 8 years.
Wow.
In Connecticut. So I would say don't ever own a bed and breakfast. It's not what it appears to be.
I actually sold a company. I sold a manufacturing company, and oh my gosh, I always say to business owners, you must plan your beginning before you follow through on your exit. Because if you haven't figured out what you're doing next, you'll never close on the sale of the business. You'll find a way to sabotage yourself. And so I had a couple that did that, and I bought them 4 LOIs, all met the price and terms, but they nitpicked and they found reasons why they didn't like each one. Until I finally said, look, that's it. I'm taking the business off the market. You guys brainstorm with each other, decide what you're wanting to do after the sale of your business. I call it the beginning strategy. And about 3 months later, they called and they said, Michelle, we've always wanted to own a bed and breakfast. So we're going to take the proceeds of the sale. We're either going to start one or buy one. And to this day, they own several bed and breakfasts.
Oh.
Yeah. So it wasn't for you, but it's for them.
That's a good way to go, because you can get economies of scale if you own several. But yeah, ours was small. It was only six guest rooms, but that was an experience.
Oh, that's a job.
It is. It is. It's you live and you work in your house.
Yeah.
And your clients live with you.
And if you don't like them, you're stuck.
You're stuck, right?
Yeah, you can never get away from it. It's definitely a job. So nothing I would ever want to do, but.
So yeah, so I digress, but so we owned a bed and breakfast, and we owned a co-working space as well. So pretty entrepreneurial. Love entrepreneurship. Love meeting entrepreneurs. That's where how you and I met, was through an entrepreneurial group. So you meet the nicest people, right? Through these organizations, by getting out there, meeting like-minded people who are going through.
You meet like-minded people. I always say you have to be careful. When you go to these organizations, when you go to speak at events, you always got to do your due diligence. Make sure that when you hire someone or partner with someone, that you're making the right, you're doing your due diligence. You're getting the right mentor. You're getting the right partner, etc. Because sometimes, I've seen firsthand going to these events, I've hired the wrong people from these events. So you got to be careful. But yes, networking is great. So you made some great connections. And I think now you're acquiring, what is the company you have with 70 employees? Is that an accounting firm?
An accounting, yep, Profitopia. So we have we're virtual, but we have a physical office in Tucson, Arizona, and that's where I am currently. And we have a physical office in Tampa, Florida, and that's where I was just last week. So I go between the two offices, travel between the two offices. And then, we have staff currently in three different spots: India, Philippines, and Africa now. We just hired our first employee in Africa. So
awesome. Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
So let's dive into it right now and give our listeners some real, profound takeaways, some golden nuggets that they can use in their business. Let's get into tax credits.
Talks about, here's my book. Yep. Tax credits are sexy. Is it backwards, or is it, when I'm looking at it?
No, it's perfect.
Perfect. Okay.
Yep.
And that's me a few pounds heavier, but nonetheless. So you alluded to it. So most CPA firms, I don't know, 95% of CPA firms don't do anything with tax credits. It's really interesting. And then we find that most companies, most entrepreneurs, most business owners don't know anything about tax credits either, because they figure, the CPA is not telling them about it. So they don't, then consequently, the company or the business owner doesn't know about it either. So this particular book that I wrote is on one particular tax credit called the Employee Retention Credit. So we'll get to that in a moment. Since I wrote a book on it, it's for sale on Amazon. But there's other tax credits as well. There's the solar tax credit, which, most people have heard of that. Mm-hmm. The other tax credit.
So let's kind of dive into the solar tax credit. How does that work?
So yeah, you do it, so you put a solar, you put a solar addition on your house, and the percentages and the amount allowed changes each year. But yeah, it's a way for the federal government to incentivize solar installations on residences. So it could be up to a 30% tax credit that you could get for installing solar on your roof. So the best way to find out about those is talk to a solar company. They obviously that's a way for them to be able to, the salespeople, to be able to sell their solar system.
And you're saying put a solar roof on your business?
You can put one on your business as well, yes.
But if you put it on your home, how is that a tax credit?
It's a tax credit on your personal tax return.
Your personal tax return. So if you want business tax credits, you put one on your roof. Okay. Yeah. So there's costs associated with that.
Correct.
Because I know there's a lot of tax credits. I've had tax credits companies come to me before. I say, Michelle, if you bring me the clients, I'll give you a percentage. Right. And so I know it's out there, but I don't know that.
The other one is the R&D tax credit, the research and development tax credit. And so that's been around since 1981. It's been here a long time, and it's approximately 8 to 10%. So round it, say 10% of your spend. So so it's for costs associated with research and development of products. So it could be a manufacturer. Typically, it's software or app developers qualify, but also you got to think outside the box. So like breweries, believe it or not, qualify for the R&D tax credit because why? Why, Michelle? Because they're creating new beers, new recipes.
So wineries would qualify for that. Anybody in the product business will qualify.
Anybody in a product business. So and again, it's 10%. So if you spend $30,000 on something and you only get a $2,500 tax credit, is it really worthwhile? Maybe, but if you spend $1 million, now you're talking, right? You're talking an $80,000 to $100,000 tax credit. And Michelle, fill in the blank. An $80,000 tax credit is
money in your pocket.
Sexy. It's sexy.
I said money in your pocket.
Money in your pocket too, right? But
money in your pocket is always sexy.
Right? Exactly. No matter how.
So I think that's a very good point. Let's just talk about that a little bit because, even if you're not in the product business, like we're looking at adding a SaaS component to our company. So that would have a tax credit. And even if I'm only spending, let's say I'm spending $250,000 on that, and it still gives you some money back. Yeah. And same thing we're developing a coaching company. Well, would it work on a coaching company?
Possibly. There's specific rules you have to look through and see if you qualify. But yeah, there's certain tests that you have to meet. But potentially,
if it's got a SaaS component, I think it will.
SaaS component, or you're creating a new process.
Yeah, creating a new process for sure.
Yeah. But again, you have to, weigh cost benefit analysis, right? So.
But if you're spending the cost and the credit is there, why not take advantage of that?
Exactly.
Okay, so what are some other ones?
So the last one would be WOTC, WOTC.
WOTC. Well, make sure we put that in the comments.
Yep. WOTC, Work Opportunity Tax Credit.
Okay.
It's the credit ranges anywhere from $1,500 to $9,500 per employee. So
this is the employee retention program.
This is not the employee retention program.
Oh, okay. I'm jumping ahead.
So the way you get those credits are you need to hire employees in certain categories. So the categories are ex-convicts, ex-felons, and veterans, and people coming off of welfare. So and it ranges, like I said, it just depends on you just have to, hire somebody and look and do the analysis. But that credit is, they only have to work like 100 hours. It's a sizable credit. So we have clients that I can think like a restaurant, they will, and I'm not going to tell you the name of the restaurant, but they hire ex-felons or they hire ex-cons because it's a way to give back, number one, to the community, but then also number two, they get the tax credits. So we have a restaurant client that they specifically look for hiring ex-cons. We have another client, it's a car wash, like auto detailing shop.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he does. He hires all ex-cons. And so it's a way, because it's hard for ex-felons to get jobs.
Yeah. And then the other way is veterans, right?
And veterans too. It's a great.
I really, really, really love helping out veterans.
Helping out veterans. It's a great way to help out the veteran community.
Yeah, we're actually partnering with a veteran company that it's a franchise, but all the franchisees are going to be veterans.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if there's a tax credit there because they're franchisees, not employees.
No, it would have to be employees. They have to be
employees, but they can hire veterans.
They can hire veterans.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then
so that's a little quick summary of some of the other tax credits that are out there that most business owners are not aware of or wouldn't think of. Like, like I said, if you owned a brewery or a distillery or in a million years, you wouldn't think of, utilizing the R&D tax credit, but so it's available.
Well, especially like software companies.
And the software company don't think about it either. Correct.
And there's so many other companies. If y'all just think about your business, everybody that's listening right now, there's so many other companies that do have software component or are adding a software component
to
their business.
So many businesses are creating apps these days. So
exactly. And so what did you say the third one was? So it was
the one we want to talk about, the one I wrote the book about.
No. The third. So if you hire veterans, ex-cons.
Oh, and people coming off of welfare, off state assistance.
Off of welfare. Now, what about mentally challenged or blind or deaf or no?
No.
Oh.
It's just those three categories: veterans, ex-felons, and people coming off state assistance.
Gotcha. Okay.
And cool. There's a fourth, summer interns too, actually.
Oh, I have a lot of summer and fall interns. Is it just summer? It could be fall and spring.
Well, yeah. So an intern, yes.
So there's a tax credit for that?
Yeah, $1,500, yeah.
Per intern?
Per intern.
Holy cow, if my people are listening, we need to go back and claim all of our tax credits.
There you go.
We have a list of interns to intern at Seiler Tucker, and right now I think we have like 7.
Oh, wow.
I did not know that. We've been doing it for about 20 years. Thanks. See all that money I just left on the table? Wow. Learn something every day. All right, Kevin, what else is sexy?
So the ERC, the Employee Retention Credit, which is what the book is about, and it's amazing to me that still, a year, I don't know, a year after the pandemic, are we still in the pandemic? Are we not? When did it end? Who knows? But right, post-pandemic, call it, right? That we're still finding businesses don't know about this amazing tax credit that President Trump put into place in March of 20 when COVID hit and the whole world came to a screeching halt. So think back with me, Michelle and listeners, back to March of 20, right? If you remember, PPP was all the rage, right? It was like, oh, this is great. We created the government created this great stimulus program and everybody's eligible, every business in America, and there's free money. And they just poured out money like crazy. And then if you remember, they ran out of money, and then they had to redo. It was a big scramble. I didn't make the first round for whatever reason, so I had to wait for the second round. So through March, April, May of 20, right? And
I made both rounds. Happy to say.
I finally made PPP. I got PPP 1 and 2, but PPP 1 had a second funding round, but. It was a great way to stimulate the economy and help businesses that were struggling, right? And that was the big focus. It was on the news. It was everywhere. Everybody was talking. All the business owners were talking about it because it was all eligible. But what people did not know was that there was another piece of that legislation, this tax credit called the Employee Retention Credit, that was also enacted in the CARES Act when President Trump signed it in March of 2020. And so it was there. But what was interesting at the time, when the legislation came out, you had to pick one or the other. You could only do PPP or ERC, and 99% of businesses picked PPP. So it was this thing that just was there in the legislation that people were ignoring, nobody knew about. And then all of a sudden on December...
Nobody talks about it, really.
Still, to this day, people are not talking about it. Then all of a sudden, President Trump, whether you, I don't, like him or not, whatever, I don't care. But
doesn't matter, yeah.
It doesn't matter, right? It's on December 27th of 20, the second CARES Act was enacted, and that was a game changer. And that's the part that is sexy and exciting that business owners don't know about. And that small change was that now you could do both. You could do PPP and ERC. And so again, it was a small piece of legislation, right? I mean, because it was, remember, I was stimulus money for individuals. I mean, it was a, can I share? I can't share on your show, I assume.
No, you can.
That was a shit show. I didn't know if I could or not, right? So it was just, right? It was the world falling.
You're live. Say whatever you want.
Okay. So that changed, and slowly over the next several months, people like my CPAs and other entrepreneurs started going, hey, what's this ERC thing that's been in, now 2 pieces of legislation? So essentially what it is it's, and I don't want to get too nerdy or too technical, but it's not an income tax credit, but it's a payroll tax credit. All right.
Okay.
So it's similar to, because everybody knows about PPP. So what I like to do, and it's in the book, is compare the SBA program for PPP to ERC, because then in people's mind they can correlate the two. So PPP, and you feel free to interact or interrupt with questions, Michelle. So SBA.
Always do.
Okay. SBA was the source of funding for the PPP. IRS is the source of funding for the ERC. So it's still a government.
Now, ERC stands for?
Employee Retention Credit. So,
which is all about your book. Okay. So how does it work?
It's basically incentivizing business owners to keep their employees and keep paying them.
Okay. Cool.
So if you remember, the PPP was a forgivable loan.
Yeah.
Right? It was a loan and it was forgiven, or could be forgiven.
Yeah.
ERC is just it's free money. There's no forgiveness. It's not a loan. It's not forgiven. It's a tax credit. And then if you remember also with the SBA, there was a certain pool of money when we were talking, like when PPP 2 came around, it was, I think it was May 31st of 2020. Got to get my timeline right. Or was it 21? I can't remember, but they ran out of money. They only had
look in your book.
I got to look at my book. They only had a certain pool of money allocated for this program. And once they ran out of money, that was it. They turned off the program. So guess what, Michelle? For ERC, there is no pool of money. It's unlimited. There isn't a
So how does it work specifically? So let's say, is it a tax credit per employee? How much is it? How does it work?
It is. Good question. So then we have to look at, let's back up a second. I'll answer your question. So it's for wages paid to employees for every quarter of 2020 and every quarter of 2021. So it's eligible for 8 quarters. That's it. That's
just 2020, 2021 is not going forward into 2022.
No.
And it's retroactive, so you can go back?
Retroactive, you can go back and file.
For how long? Like, what's the time frame on going back?
Great question again. It's a 5-year statute of limitations.
Okay.
So statute of limitations with the IRS is typically 3 years in this case, but the act extended it to 5 years. So there's a 5-year window to be able to file, to be able to get this tax credit.
Okay, so this is important for all listeners that want to go find some money. Need some tax credits.
Right?
Yeah, so how does it work? How much is it per person?
Yeah, so here's how it works. So read my book and you'll find out. No. So
off my show.
So there's it. And again, remember, I mean, PPP was pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
right?
It was straightforward.
Pretty straightforward calculation. You took your average monthly payroll times 1.5 or whatever. Boom, you come up with a number. ERC is not straightforward. It's very complicated. So there's 3 ways to qualify. So that makes it a little easier to I'll repeat it. So the first and easiest way to qualify for ERC is if your business was subject to a full or partial government shutdown. So if the business was subject to a full or partial government shutdown, you're instantly eligible.
So that means the government says, because did that happen in 2020 where the government said, can't go to work, all businesses are shut down?
Yeah. So they're doing this they did this as a way to incentivize employers to retain their employees, but then nobody knew about it. It was just this weird law and this weird. The
government didn't come out and say you have to shut down your business.
So they did, yeah. I mean, right? State governments were.
I'm trying to remember. I mean, I came to the office every day with one person. Everybody else worked from home.
I remember restaurants. I
know they closed down restaurants. I know they closed down bars. They closed down a lot of retail businesses. They did encourage everybody to work from home.
Dental offices, right? Gym, bars. And there's certain businesses that, everything shut down. Camps, right? Summer camps.
Yeah. All businesses, really. I mean, M&A took a huge nosedive in 2020. Yeah. Everything shut down. Yeah, 1,000%. Okay, so that's number one. Government.
So pretty much guaranteed every restaurant in America qualifies.
Every restaurant, probably every health club, every bar. I mean, I don't know about grocery stores. What about just businesses like M&A firms?
Well, but again, no, because you're a service company, so your company was not subject to a full or partial government shutdown.
That's right.
So you wouldn't qualify. So it's
mostly public retail type businesses.
Correct. So and then then it gets complicated. Right? You're only eligible during the shutdown. It's not so straightforward and simple, but so that makes it easy. Because most businesses know or remember, did I have a shutdown or did I not have? Was my business subject to a shutdown?
Well, restaurants weren't even really shut down. Restaurants were still open. Pharmacies.
They were partially shut down. They had to restrict, if you remember, right? You had to.
Pharmacies too, yeah.
They either had to do delivery or takeout only. They had no you couldn't sit down, or if you sat down, there was a.
Restaurants were almost all shut down, but I'm talking like grocery stores, pharmacies, Walmart, Target.
No, they weren't shut down.
Yeah, so it's the restaurant industry.
Look at churches, right? And that some churches, there was I know in Tucson, there were gatherings over 50 people. You were not allowed to have gatherings over 50 people. So all the museums shut down, all the live venues shut down. The churches were, in Tucson at least, the churches were exempted from that law. But so any business that would have been affected by that shutdown would be eligible for this tax credit. And that's where it gets sexy. People go, oh my God, there's free money out there from the feds, I don't even know about it, right? I've been suffering. I had to shut down my business. I had to shut down, restrict, whatever.
Those businesses are the ones that really need it.
Exactly. So that's
and so they could get both. They could get the PPP and the ERC.
Yes, exactly.
So that's one requirement. You had to be shut down. What's it say? So that does rule out a lot of businesses, though.
Oh yeah. So you can qualify for 1, 2, or all 3 of the methods. Actually, I think we've had one client actually qualify under all 3. So first way, easy, shutdown, right? We are subject to a shutdown. Second way, and pretty straightforward too. Are you a new business? If you're a new business, and the IRS definition of a new business is you started your business on or after March 15th of 2020. So March 15th of 2020, you are eligible for up to, and are you sitting down, Michelle? Up to $100,000 tax credit.
Per person or just total?
Total.
100,000. And how much did you say the tax credit was if you were shut down by the government? How much was it there?
It's unlimited.
What do you mean unlimited?
$2.8 million tax credit.
Yeah. So if a restaurant was shut down, and let's say they have 25 employees, how much tax credit do they get?
Ugh. So the running.
I like to get into the weeds.
But yeah, and so here's the running joke in the office. One,
Nobody knows.
the question is, I don't know, and two, it depends. So it depends how long the shutdown was, how many employees did you have, how many of the employees are family members, because family members are not eligible, and owners are not eligible. Did you get PPP money? Did you not get PPP money? So because you qualify for each separate quarter. So you could qualify for one quarter or for all 8 quarters. So it just depends. This is why it gets complicated.
So if we have restaurant owners listening, and there's so many, and churches, etc., so what do? They call somebody like you and walk them through the minutia. And you always say the devil's in the details. And so they walk you through. So they call somebody like you who's an expert, right?
Correct.
Okay. So number one is government shutdown. Number two
is a new business now, and that's where it gets crazy too, because the way they wrote the IRS code was the law says that you began operations. So what does that mean, beginning operations? So we've had clients who they incorporated and opened a bank account several months before then, but they didn't open their restaurant or they didn't open their storefront until the summer. So even under that scenario, that business would qualify for up to $100,000 tax credit.
Wow, that's amazing. And I was just going back to government shutdown. You're talking about doctors' offices, dentist offices, talking about pretty much any company that really services the public. I mean, so many companies were shut down.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the third way?
The third way, believe it or not, is the most complicated way.
Oh no, you mean it gets more complicated?
More complicated.
Nothing's ever easy with the government. Come on.
God, no. The initial IRS regulations that came out on this was only like 108 pages. So there's a lot of gray and ambiguity out there too around this versus the regular IRS tax code, which is just volumes and volumes of, books on the IRS, the normal tax code. So the third way to qualify is similar to the way businesses were able to qualify for PPP2, the second round, where you had to demonstrate a decline in revenue. So it's essentially you have to look at every quarter of 20 compared to every quarter of 19 and every quarter of 21 compared to the quarter of 19. And if you had either a 50% or a 20% reduction, then you qualify for that quarter and the subsequent quarter. So it just gets like, how would a normal person be able to, it's almost impossible for the average person.
Yeah, they're like, here's all this money, but good luck, I'm figuring it out.
I know.
So how much tax credit would they get if that happened, if they were able to prove, because many businesses are able to prove that. So how much tax credit would they get for that?
Yeah, so our average refund for a client is up to this point is $89,000. So that's average. So
that's good money for a lot of business owners that are struggling.
Of course. Yeah, we had one. I remember talking to one particular business owner. They were a restaurant, in southern Arizona, which, not even Tucson, like out in the middle of nowhere. And we roughly figured out their tax credit was going to be $10,000. And that's like a payroll for them, or that's a couple of months of rent, right? So, get $10,000 of free, I hate to say free, but free money.
Free. So how much do you cost? Your bill.
We charge a contingency fee or a success fee of 25% to do the calculation and do that. So there's no fees besides that. There's no upfront fees. So we just do a revenue share with the employee or with the business.
Oh, that's cool. So they're not paying you anything up front. So if you can't get the tax credits, then they're not out any money. And then if you do, then they get 25%. I mean, I think that's pretty good.
So what we tell people is just look into it. It costs you nothing. It doesn't hurt.
Now, I'm sure you assess the business up front and do a little bit of due diligence just to make sure before you're spinning your wheels as well, just to make sure that they will qualify. So on average, how many people have you been able to help with this?
Oh, hundreds.
Hundreds. Okay. To get you into the thousands.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we got a window to do it. So is it 5 years that starts after 2021?
Yeah, at this point, about 4 years out.
We're about 4 years out. Okay.
4 years to go.
So now I know why you wrote the book. But I mean, I think this is huge. There's so many struggling businesses out there that can go take advantage of this. Hire Kevin. He's not going to charge you anything up front. So hundreds of clients, how many have you been successful for? What's your success rate?
Yeah, hundreds.
Hundreds? So you have 100% success rate?
No. Oh, I don't know how, I couldn't tell. I don't know, honestly, how many we've worked with that didn't qualify. That's a great question.
I have no idea. Yeah. Know your numbers.
That's bad. A CPA doesn't know his numbers. I couldn't tell you. Sorry.
But you help more people than you're not able to, I would assume.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. If we try to pre-screen people, like if someone owns an advertising agency here's a good one. Like all the trades. Oh my gosh, right? All the landscapers and the builders and the framers and the plumber, their business is booming. So they're not new. They were not subject to a shutdown, and their businesses, their revenue is going up. The likelihood of them qualifying is very slim to none. So
yeah, but based upon the criteria, I really think there's a lot of companies that would benefit because there's so many companies. I especially think of doctors' offices.
Oh yeah,
so many doctors' offices that were shut down. During that time frame. I mean, we own medical clinics, and our medical clinics were all shut down. We, got to where we could do telehealth, but it wasn't the same.
Right.
And there's so many businesses there are a lot of businesses that actually start. I was shocked. There's a lot of businesses that started in 2020.
Oh, I know. Can you imagine? I mean, that's your claim to fame, right? I mean, I started.
A lot of them come to me to sell, but they just unfortunately don't have much to sell, because they never really got their feet off the ground.
Right.
And then
that's where again it gets sexy, right? So you started a business during the pandemic. You're a survivor, right? You hired employees, and you can get up to $100,000 from the IRS, and people don't know about it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's called the employee retention.
This is all the employee retention credit. All three of those.
Wow.
Just three different ways to qualify.
It's just shocking because nobody talks about it. Nobody hears about it. Nobody really reads about it. Mm-hmm. So that's amazing. All right. So what else can you tell our listeners?
Then it gets interesting with business. So this is where we like to talk to people up front. So the greater than 50% owners of the business do not qualify. And
greater than 50%.
Greater than a 50% owner, their wages don't qualify for this. And
wages don't qualify, but the business could still qualify.
The business could qualify. The other employees could qualify, and their family members. And family members
wages don't qualify.
The definition that the IRS has for family members it's like step parents and brothers and.
Yeah, but do those family members have to be working in the business?
So the family members don't. They don't qualify for this tax credit.
Oh, they don't qualify. Family members do not qualify. The owner's wages, if it's more than 50%, does not qualify.
Correct.
Okay. If it's less than 50%, it does.
It does.
All right. What else?
So then this is where it gets, you mentioned this before, as far as, so then what needs to be done is a calculation of all of the wages paid during these periods, and allocate, and I try not to get too nerdy or too into the weeds, but you have to allocate all that salary or all those wages between PPP and ERC, because the terminology is you cannot double dip.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like a nonprofit that has a.
If you got PPP, then you probably are not going to get ERC.
You can. You just can't double dip. So. Okay. So think about it. So Michelle, for PPP, were owners' wages and their family members' wages. Could they get PPP money for those wages? Yes. So if you take all the owners' wages and their family members and put them to PPP, what does that do? It frees up another pool of wages that you can get ERC money from.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Got you.
So
So I would qualify, but I would qualify in a decreased revenue because M&A took a nosedive in 2020.
Yeah, you may qualify. So
Yeah,
we know somebody, and I'm not, I think you've heard me say it before. Her business had 150 employees or so. Her business had an off quarter.
Oh yeah.
Luke had one off quarter. They qualified for one quarter. They got $492,000 tax credit.
Wow. Now, if that's not the reason to pick up the phone and call Mr. Sexy, I don't know what is. Oh my gosh. We definitely got to go read his book, Tax Credits Are Sexy. Got to get in touch with Kevin. Any other success stories or hoops or, last minute thoughts you want to leave with our listeners?
No, I guess, I just love what I do. I love being it. Does, like I said, it doesn't have to be $492,000. It doesn't have to.
Is that the most? Is that the biggest success story?
2.8.
You got $2.8 million for a client?
Yeah.
And what one? So did they cash in on all three? Government shutdown, decreased revenue.
It was in this case. It was. Give me a second. It was shutdown and decreased revenue. It was a school.
Wow.
So yeah, they declined. Their enrollment declined during the pandemic.
You got them 2.8. Was that a university?
It was no, it wasn't a university. Oh, so here people so nonprofits qualify. So the tribal organizations qualify. So if it's a like a casino or anything that the Indian tribes own, because I live in the Wild Wild West, we have a lot of tribal organizations out here. The only type of business or any legal entity that does not qualify is a government entity. That's the only business that does. So all nonprofits, all churches, all tribal entities, all qualify for this.
Wow, that's amazing. What's amazing is there's so much money being left on the table that people don't know about, and they're just struggling to even put food on the table for their families. I want to blast this out and make sure everybody knows about it, because you're probably one of the only CPAs doing this.
Yeah, there's not. I would say 95% of CPAs don't get into this or don't do this. So. Because
it's overly complicated.
Yes, you can see, right? I mean, oh my gosh, it is. It's so complicated.
2.9 million is your success story.
2.8, yeah.
2.8. That's 2.8, awesome.
2.9. But yeah, but again, I just love the story of, just the struggling restaurant in Southern Arizona. We got them 10 grand. I mean.
Yeah. And that 10 grand could save them from going out of business.
Exactly.
Like you said, that could be 3 months of rent. That could be 2 months of employee wages.
Right. Exactly.
That's amazing. I mean, like I said, there's so many struggling businesses. And I always say, the American business entrepreneurs are the backbone of our economy. There's 30.2 million businesses in the United States employing what? Over half the U.S. workforce. So when small businesses close, what happens? We lose jobs. What happens when we lose jobs? We lose spending power. Then more businesses close. It's a trickle-down effect. So this is really huge, huge, huge. And that's why I'm glad I had you on the show. Yeah. But I just think the message should get out there even more so we can help as many people as we can. Now, do you also pay referral fees? So if somebody's listening and they say, oh, well, I can't do it. I don't qualify, but I know 10 businesses that do.
Right. We work with a lot of referral partners.
Okay.
In this business, yeah.
Cool. So any last minute thoughts that you want to leave? Any words of wisdom on tax credits?
Not on tax credits, just maybe on life or on entrepreneurship.
Maybe some of Kevin's golden nuggets on life.
It's just, life is short. If you don't like what you do, do something that you like to do. Oh my gosh, right?
Now you've changed your entire lifestyle over the last year, I think. Because you talk about it. You've changed your lifestyle. You've changed your life dramatically.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I've gone through a divorce, and yeah, I own an RV. I travel around in an RV with an office in it, and yeah. So now I'm an author now. I do public speaking. So yeah. So
you're the happiest you've ever been.
I'm sorry.
You're the happiest you've ever been.
Well.
Oh, sorry. That's okay.
It's all right.
I only have a couple million listeners.
It's all, oh, did you? Wow, nice. But no, but if, so that, and it's just, I just, this perseverance, one of my all-time favorite stories is, I don't know if you've read the book Titan, the biography of Rockefeller.
Mm-hmm.
So
long time ago.
It's a big book. But I'll never forget. So so Rockefeller, he got an associate's degree as a bookkeeper, and he was 21, 22 years old, and he went to go get his first bookkeeping job. This would have been late 1800s, and everybody turned him down. He spent a whole month pounding the pavement trying to get a job. So 1 month goes by, not one job offer. He does it a second month, goes back and applies for jobs again, still doesn't get a job. He goes back the third month and he got his first job. But think about what that was, enabled him to do from the very beginning, right? The tenacity of that, right?
Tenacity, yeah.
I
mean, you hear the same thing with Dale Carnegie. You hear the same thing with Walt Disney.
Yes.
You hear these stories over and over again about perseverance and
not giving up.
And and that's what people need more of. There's so many people that quit. Greg Reed wrote a book, I think with Sharon Lecter, called 3 Feet from Gold.
Yes.
And because so many people quit too soon, and you don't fail unless you quit. Failure is temporary. Quitting is permanent.
That's true. See, there you go. There's words of wisdom from Michelle.
So, Kevin, how can our listeners get a hold of Tax Credits Are Sexy and get in touch with you, Kevin Marshall, to help them through and navigate this very complicated process, so they too can get money to dig them perhaps out of a hole that they are, help put on the table. Most importantly, help keep people employed. That's the biggest thing.
Oh yeah. So the book is for sale on Amazon. It's Kindle and print. And we also have an app in the App Store. So if you look up Profitopia in the App Store, we're the only app in the App Store for the ERC, for the Employee Retention Credit. And I think the book is available there, PDF and Audible, an Audible book. And then our website, profitopia.com. So you can reach out to our salespeople there and reach out to our customer service team. So that would be probably the best way.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much for coming on Exit Rich. We finally got you on. We finally aligned our schedules.
I know.
And thanks so much. There's a lot of golden nuggets. I encourage all of our listeners to share this episode with your friends, your family, your coworkers, your fellow entrepreneurs, and get the message out that they too can take advantage. You got 4 years to take the advantage of cashing in these tax credits and really helping to retain your employees, so that they can keep food on the table for their families. And it costs you nothing. It costs you nothing. You give a percentage. It's kind of like me. When you hire me to sell your business, it costs you nothing until I sell the business, or contingency, just like Kevin is. So I encourage everyone to reach out to Kevin and everyone to go get the book, Tax Credits Are Sexy. And I thank everyone for listening, tuning in, sharing another episode of Exit Rich. And looking forward to next Tuesday, we'll have another special guest on. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Michelle. Good to see you.
You too.
Thanks for listening to the Exit Rich podcast. Don't forget to check out Michelle Seiler Tucker's Build to Sell Blueprint books and Exit Rich, along with more blogs, videos, and resources at exitrichpodcast.com. Be sure to connect with Michelle on Facebook or LinkedIn and stay tuned for her next episode by subscribing in your favorite podcast player.